What's going on, everybody, and welcome to my 3.4 updated Jingliu guide. Jingliu is a blast-based DPS who does specialize in the HP drain mechanic, and is also one of the 4 characters who will be receiving a buff in the 3.4 update, which did impact how you do want to build her. So in this video, I'm going to be taking you over everything you need to know, including a kit overview, best Lightcones, relics, team building, and so on. Before we begin, I do want to say I now have a build guide on every single new and returning 3.4 character that will all be linked in the description and the pinned comment below. So if you're interested in anyone that is new or rerunning in 3.4, be sure to check that out, and let's dive straight into the video. So Jingliu is an ice character following the path of destruction. Her basic attack deals ice damage to a single enemy based off her max HP. Her skill also will deal ice damage based off her max HP to one designated enemy and also will obtain a stack. Her ultimate deals ice damage based off her max HP to a designated enemy and the adjacent enemies. After that attack, she will gain a stack. Jingliu's talent allows her to enter Spectral Transmigration when she does reach 2 stacks. When she does enter Spectral Transmigration, her action will be advanced by 100% and will also gain a 50% crit rate buff and upgrade her skill to Mood on a Glacial River. In that state, she can only use that enhanced skill. She will consume 5% HP from allies per attack, but will never let them drop below 1 HP. Anytime allies take damage or lose HP, she can gain Moonlight that will stack up to 5 times, and each Moonlight stack can give her 44% crit damage. Those stacks can stack up to 4 times, but if it does drop to 0, she will exit the Spectral Transmigration state and lose all Moonlight stacks. To gain the other stacks, allies must take or lose HP, 20 times total will be a stack, only 1 trigger per target per attack. Her enhanced skill will deal ice damage based off her max HP to a designated enemy and the adjacent targets, and will also consume a stack, and will also not consume skill points. Her technique will create a special dimension where enemies in that dimension will become frozen. Entering battle with the technique active will allow Jingliu to regenerate 15 energy upon entering battle and also immediately obtain a stack, and will also have a 100% base chance of freezing the targets that you do enter battle with. Her A2 increases her effect res by 35% when she is in Spectral Transmigration. Her A4 regenerates an additional 15 energy when using Transcendent Flash, which is the skill when you are not in Spectral Transmigration, and will regenerate 8 energy if you use Moon on Glacial River, which is the one you do have in Spectral Transmigration. Her A6 will give her next attack a 25% defense ignore of the target's defense when you do have max stacks. Her first Eidolon will increase her crit damage by 36% for a turn when she does use her ultimate or enhanced skill. She also will get an additional instance of ice damage equal to 80% of her max HP to the primary target. Her E2 will increase the damage of her next enhanced skill by 80% after she does use her ultimate. Her E4 further amplifies the crit damage buff you can get with Moonlight stacks in the Spectral Transmigration state by receiving an additional 20% crit damage per stack. Her E6 will increase the stack limit of her stacks when she does enter the Spectral Transmigration state, and will additionally obtain 2 stacks when she does enter that state. While she is in the state, she will get a 30% increase to her Ice Res Pen. When we do take a look at her best Lightcone options, her brand new best in slot is actually going to be the signature for Mide, which does increase the wearer's max HP by 18% and increases incoming healing by 20%. When using skill or ultimate, consumes HP equal to 6% of the wearer's max HP and increases the damage dealt by this attack by 30%. If the effect's consumed HP is greater than 500, the damage additionally increases by 30%. As Jingliu is now a HP scaling DPS, the max HP increase is going to be really nice, and you always pair her with another healer, so incoming healing will ensure that she doesn't end up dying. Her main damage is going to be her enhanced skill, and this does buff that, and also does actually buff, and if you do consume 500 HP, it will additionally increase that damage by 30%, making it that much more potent. In order to achieve this effect, Jingliu will need a max HP of 8,334 to ensure you are consuming 500 HP, as it does consume it based off the max HP to get the 500. If you are able to achieve that and get the full effect of this Lightcone, it is far and none her new best in slot. And if you are not able to get the extra 30% damage by consuming 500 HP, the performance of this Lightcone does drop, but it is still a very potent option, and is now her overall best in slot. Next option would be her own signature Lightcone, which increases the wearer's crit damage by 20%. When a teammate gets attacked or loses HP, the wearer will gain a stack of Eclipse up to a maximum of 3 stacks. Each stack of Eclipse increases the damage of the wearer's next attack by 14%, and when you do have 3 stacks, additionally enables that attack to ignore 12% of the enemy's defense, and the effect will be removed after the wearer uses an attack. This Lightcone now providing crit damage is a bit less important, just because Jingliu has so much access to crit damage in her base kit now, but it's still a nice extra bonus you do get. And Jingliu also very much loves damage buffs, so this Lightcone actually providing you a 14% increase to damage, and that will stack up to 3 times, is going to be extremely beneficial. And having max stacks will obviously mean you get a big damage bonus, but you also get an additional 12% defense ignore, which will further amplify by any other sources of defense ignore on her team, such as Sunday E1, the defense ignore she has in her bonus traces, and so on. And she is able to obviously fully utilize this Lightcone as it is her signature. She is able to do everything for the requirements, as she does consume the team's HP, which is why it is her next best in slot option. Now the next option that is going to be best past those two is going to be the free-to-play Ninja Record Sound Hunt Lightcone, which increases the wearer's max HP by 12% when losing or restoring this unit's HP, increases crit damage by 18% that will last for 2 turns, and effect can only trigger once per turn. And at S5, it does become a 24% increase to max HP with a 36% increase to crit damage. Unfortunately, she is not able to fully utilize this by herself, as she consumes the team HP rather than her own. So to actually get this effect on herself, you would actually have to either get hit or heal, assuming you already did take damage. The other way is going to be with one of her best in slot teammates Lightcone, and that is going to be Hyacine's Lightcone, as Hyacine's Lightcone does give Hyacine access to drain everyone's HP, which will also proc the effect of this Lightcone. So if you do have a way to get this actually active, and even without, Hyacine's Lightcone and such, it's still pretty easy to get hit. Any damage you take, you will be able to heal with any healer, and will be able to proc this part of the actual Lightcone. So if you are able to have full uptime, this will be the next best option to use. And the last option you could use is a Secret Bow, which increases damage dealt by 20% for the wearer, and will also deal an additional 20% of damage to enemies whose current HP percentage is equal to or higher than the wearer's current HP percentage, and at S5, both values become 40%. So, in short, it is a free 40% damage dealt increase, and if you are able to have the second part to have a total of 80% damage dealt, it does improve the value of the Lightcone by a lot. And on the flip side, if you don't have the second part active, it loses a lot of value. But if you don't have her signature or Mide's signature, or if you don't want to play the RNG of the Sound Hunt Lightcone, then this can be a more consistent option for you to use. Although I do personally recommend just using Sound Hunt instead. For Relic Sets, Jingliu's best in slot is still going to be 4-piece of the Scholar set, 2-piece providing 8% crit rate, and the 4-piece increasing damage dealt by skill and ultimate by 20%, and after using ultimate, additionally increases the damage dealt by the next skill by 25%. As I mentioned in the Lightcone portion of the video, Jingliu doesn't have too much access to damage percent, so this Relic set providing you nothing but damage percent in the 4-piece is going to be super nice. The 8% crit rate is going to make it to where you don't need even more crit rate rolls. Jingliu already doesn't really need too much, especially when you do pair with someone like Sunday, which is one of her best teammates, but it still can help for the times you aren't running Sunday, or if your rolls are just no crit rate at all, so the 2-piece can come in handy, while the 4-piece will increase her main damage source by 20%, and also does increase her hard-hitting ultimate by an additional 20%, and anytime you do use her ultimate, the next skill you do hit with will have an additional 25% increase to its damage dealt, making it her overall best in slot. The only other 4-piece I recommend is going to be 4-piece Genius. The reason I no longer will recommend 4-piece Hunter of Glacial Forest is because I did mention Jingliu already has a bunch of crit damage in her kit, and the 4-piece of the Glacial Forest is focusing on crit damage. The 2-piece is nice, but the 4-piece pure focus is crit damage, and that is why I would no longer recommend it, so it'd either be Scholar or once again Genius set, which the 2-piece is useless as she doesn't do quantum damage, but the 4-piece provides a 10% defense ignore when the wearer does deal damage to an enemy, and if they do have quantum weakness, the wearer will deal an additional 10% defense ignore. So 4-piece gives you up to a 20% defense ignore, 10% at base, 20% if they do have quantum weakness. Jingliu has 25% defense ignore in her base kit, and can gain even more if you do have her signature Lightcone, Sunday E1, and so on. The more defense ignore you have paired with defense shred, the stronger the value of defense shred and defense ignore become. With Jingliu's base kit alone and also a quantum weak enemy, you can get up to a 45% defense ignore, which is going to be really good for her damage, and once again will be further amplified with more defense ignore and also paired with defense shred, which is why the 4-piece actually does work really well with her. Now past those two 4-pieces, it would be combining 2-piece, 2-piece. So you can do something like 2-piece of the Glacial Forest set for the ice damage, and pair it with 2-piece of the Disciple set for the max HP it does provide. You still can use something like 2-piece Scholar or 2-piece Wave Strider. Wave Strider would be less so because again it is crit damage, you really don't have a need for that. Scholar would be for the crit rate, so again, if you have lesser rolls and you don't actually hit the 100% crit rate in battle after all the buffs, that can help you with that. So main combinations would be Scholar, Disciple, and Glacial Forest. But overall, I definitely recommend just trying your best to get a 4-piece of the Scholar set. It's going to be the best performing. If not that, then Genius 4-piece. For Planar Ornaments, her best in slot is still going to be Relic Arena, providing 8% crit rate, and when the wearer's crit rate reaches 70% or higher, damage up by basic attack and skill increases by 20%. Extra crit rate, this might make it to where you might overcap, especially if you're already running Scholar, and 70% crit rate in battle is very, very easy with Jingliu. By herself, she gets 50% crit rate in her base kit, 2-piece Scholar gives 8%, and this will give you an additional 8%, meaning 16%. So you'd have a base of 66% with just the Scholar 2-piece and Relic Arena and her base kit, meaning you only really need 1 to 2 rolls. And that obviously doesn't account for stuff like Sunday Buff. With Sunday Buff alone, you'll have more than enough, and so on. So the requirement is extremely easy, and it just buffs her main source of damage being skilled by 20%. Once again, damage sources is going to be the one thing you do want to focus, and that is why it is going to be really good on her. Despite crit damage being a little less desirable, Bone is still going to be the next best option, with a max HP increase of 12%, and when the wearer does have 5,000 or higher max HP, will increase the wearer and their member spread's crit damage by 28%. So a further increase to her max HP is going to increase her overall damage, and she also will be able to get a relatively free 28% increase to crit damage. Even though Jingliu can pretty easily see some diminishing returns with how much crit damage she does have, it's still going to be the next best option you can use, mainly for the max HP increase. And I'm not trying to say crit damage is useless or anything, you still can get good rolls and go even higher. It's not something that you have to completely avoid, but for an ornament, it's still going to actually be pretty good. Rulant still is better, but Bone would be the next best option. For Relic main stats, for the body, HP percent is going to be the way to go now, but you can still very much use crit damage. Crit damage will still work fine, but as I've mentioned multiple times now, she already has a bunch of crit access, so HP percent is usually going to be the one to outperform, but if you already have a really good crit damage body, that will be the one you do. For the feat, you primarily will be using speed, as you do want to get Jingliu to the 135-ish just so you can get her to breakpoint speed and also be able to run a -1 speed with someone like Bronya or Sunday. But if you do want to run a base speed Jingliu and pair with a hyperspeed support instead, then you can run HP percent boots instead. For the orb, you want to do ice damage percent, and the link rope, you want to do HP percent. For the substats, first, if you are trying to get a -1 speed setup, you want to focus on getting her speed to breakpoint or higher. Whatever is going to be 1 to 3-ish speed above your action advance support. So if your Sunday is at 138 speed, you want to focus on getting your Jingliu to around 139 to 141. Past that would be the amount you want to focus on her crit rate. This does vastly depend if you do have 2-piece Scholar active, if you do have Relic Arena, and also stuff on your team such as Sunday. If you do have Sunday on your team and you're running 4-piece Scholar, so also the 2-piece Scholar by proxy and also Relic Arena, you have a base crit rate of 5%. Jingliu will give herself 50% crit rate when she does enter her estate, so that's 55% on its own. The 2-piece from Scholar is an additional 8%, plus the additional 8% you do get from Relic Arena, which is 16%. 55 plus 16 is going to be 71% crit rate. Sunday buff is going to be an additional 20% crit rate, meaning you have 91% crit rate, meaning you only really need 3 rolls of crit rate. And this is obviously not accounting if you're running someone like RMC buff, which also provides crit rate, Sparkle Lightcone, which provides crit rate, if you're running a Lightcone that also potentially might provide crit rate, and so on. So you mainly just want to focus on where you do reach 100% crit rate in battle, which is going to be extremely easy. And then past that is going to be focusing on as much HP percent and crit damage you can get. HP percent is going to be the more focus you want to have. Crit damage less so because again she already has so much access, so focusing first on HP percent. If you're running Bone, make sure you have above 5,000, but that's going to be really easy. Really good to aim for around 7,200 or higher. If you are running Mide's signature Lightcone, be sure to prioritize HP percent more and try to get it to 8,334 to get the full effect of the Lightcone. And then again, past that would just be as much crit damage as you can get as well. For team building / team ideas, I don't have Jingliu on my account, so pretend Yanqing here is Jingliu. The absolute best team you can do for Jingliu right now is going to be the new buff Jingliu. Then you're also going to run Tribi as well. E1 Tribi will make it to where she does do a lot more damage. But even at E0, Tribi is going to be fine as she is one of the best characters for HP scalers. The next Harmony would be Sunday himself, especially in a -1 setup. So the third slot would go ahead and be Sunday. And the last slot would be Hyacinth, especially with the signature Lightcone, as she is able to increase the team's max HP, and her signature Lightcone provides HP drain, which is going to be good for Jingliu. I don't have Hyacinth on my account either, so I'm just going to put Linksha instead, and that also does bring it to my next point, where if you don't have someone like Hyacinth, just sub it out for the next best character you can use. So Linksha is going to be great, Gallagher is going to be fine, Luocha will be fine, and so on. You always want to use a healer with her, just avoid using shields. If you don't have Sunday, you can very much easily sub out Sunday for Bronya. Bronya can also do the -1 setup. And if you're doing a base speed Jingliu, instead of those, you can actually use a hyperspeed Sparkle instead. Sparkle provides a lot more crit damage compared to them though, so you will have diminishing returns, but Sparkle still does work fine. And if you don't have Chibi, you can sub out Chibi for someone like RMC. RMC is also very good with Jingliu, so you can actually go ahead and sub her out for RMC instead. And at the same time, you can actually use Chibi and RMC together. So let's say you don't use an action advance, you just have Jingliu at 134 speed breakpoint, and your source of action advance is going to be the Mem buff from your MC. So instead, you would be running MC and Chibi instead, so it would look something like this. Those would be your main choices to use with Jingliu, since with the actual buff, her becoming a full HP character does remove her synergy with someone like Ting Yun or Robin. So you're mainly going to be cycling between the RMC, Chibi, Sunday, Bronya, and in some cases Sparkle. And then your last out usually will be always a sustain, as she is a HP draining character. You do usually always want to run a sustain. And that does wrap up the full Jingliu guide. I hope you guys did find that video helpful. If you did, dropping a like would be greatly appreciated. If you're new to this channel or you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and turn the bell icon for future videos like this, along with all other types of Star Wars content. Be sure to check the description to join the Discord server, and I'll see you later. Peace out.